The drug that was supposed to save your life might be aging your face by 15 years. Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro. Millions of people are taking these medications right now, and a growing number of them are walking into cosmetic clinics looking shattered. Not because the drug failed, because it worked. And here's the part nobody warned them about. I'm going to show you exactly what's happening biologically, why your doctor probably didn't mention it, and stay with me on this, what the injectable industry is doing to cash in on the fallout. But first, let me paint you a picture. Someone loses 40 pounds in 6 months. They feel incredible. They look in the mirror and something is wrong. Their cheeks are hollow. Their jawline looks skeletal. The folds around their mouth have deepened overnight. They look older, not healthier, and they cannot understand why. Here's what actually happened. Your face has its own fat compartments, distinct, layered pockets of fat that sit under your skin and hold everything in place. When you lose weight gradually, those compartments deflate slowly enough for your skin to adapt, to tighten, to follow the contour. But on GLP-1 medications, semaglutide, tirzepatide, people are losing weight at the same speed as bariatric surgery patients. Surgeons have been seeing facial aging in post-op patients for decades. The difference is that millions of people are now doing this without anyone telling them it could happen to their face. The skin loses its internal scaffolding before it has time to contract. And what you're left with looks exactly like advanced age. Hollowed temples, deflated cheeks, deepened folds, a jawline that belongs on someone 20 years older. And that is only half the problem. Because there's a second thing happening simultaneously that most people have never heard of, and it's the one that makes the facial aging even worse. These medications work by suppressing appetite dramatically. Patients aren't just eating less, they're sometimes barely eating at all. And when you lose weight rapidly without enough protein and without resistance training, you don't just lose fat, you lose muscle. The face has its own musculature, its own supporting structures. When practitioners describe the most severe presentations of Ozempic face, they're looking at two things happening at once: volume loss from the fat deflating and structural support loss from the underlying muscle wasting away. The compounded result can make someone look 10 to 15 years older than they did before they started the medication. There is a real, preventable nutritional component to this. Protein intake on GLP-1 drugs is a genuine clinical concern. The emerging recommendation is aggressive: 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. That number sounds high. For most GLP-1 patients who are barely eating, it's nearly impossible. So that's the problem. Now here's where it gets commercially interesting. Because the injectable aesthetics industry did not create this problem, but it is absolutely positioned to profit from it. Practitioners are calling it the Ozempic correction wave. Patients who spent months on GLP-1 medications to transform their bodies are now showing up at cosmetic clinics to address what the transformation did to their faces. And the industry is building entirely new treatment protocols around them. Hyaluronic acid fillers for immediate volume. Biostimulators, things like Sculptra, which is polyl-lactic acid, for deeper, longer-lasting collagen restoration. Neuromodulators, skin tightening devices. Radiofrequency microneedling, HIFU, thread lifts. Sculptra in particular is generating a lot of clinical interest right now because it doesn't just add volume, it stimulates your own collagen production over time. For a patient whose skin quality has been compromised alongside volume loss, that addresses multiple layers of the problem at once. And then there's fat transfer, autologous fat grafting, taking fat from elsewhere in the body, processing it, and reintroducing it into the facial compartments. It sounds almost poetic. The very fat that disappeared from the face gets harvested from somewhere else and restored. But there's a critical caveat. If the patient is still actively losing weight on their medication, the grafted fat can continue to shrink alongside it. Which brings us to the most nuanced conversation happening in aesthetic medicine right now. And honestly, the one that could get practices into trouble if they're not careful. Should patients stop their medication to fix their face? This is where two medical worlds that have historically never needed to talk to each other are being forced into the same room: obesity medicine and aesthetic medicine. Pausing a GLP-1 medication is not a cosmetic decision. It has real metabolic consequences. The emerging consensus is moving toward a multidisciplinary approach. Endocrinologists and obesity medicine physicians need to be part of the conversation when patients are seeking aesthetic correction. The principle is stabilization first, correction second. Practices that are developing these clinical pathways right now, training staff to have genuinely sensitive conversations about body image, about realistic expectations, about treatment staging, are positioning themselves at the front of a market that is growing every single month. But there is a responsibility dimension here that is easy to miss. Ozempic face has been sensationalized. The media has treated it as something shameful, something that happened to people who made a bad decision. Practitioners are actively working to reframe that. A patient who has lost significant weight has done something genuinely remarkable for their long-term health. The facial changes are a physiological side effect of that success. They are understandable, they are addressable, and they are not a cosmetic failure. Here is what is coming. Pharmaceutical companies developing the next generation of GLP-1 medications are watching these aesthetic outcomes. The drugs further along in development pipelines, targeting more selective fat loss with better lean mass preservation, could meaningfully reduce the severity of Ozempic face as a side effect. But those drugs are not here yet. Tens of millions of people are navigating these changes right now. And the window for aesthetic practices to establish themselves as the destination for this patient demographic is open, and it is not going to stay open forever. One more thing, and this one matters. Ozempic face is not inevitable. The severity exists on a spectrum, and where someone lands on that spectrum depends on factors you can actually influence. Age and baseline skin quality matter, but so does the rate of weight loss, protein intake, resistance training, sun damage history, and genetic collagen quality. Younger patients with good skin elasticity who lose weight gradually and hit their protein targets often experience minimal facial changes. The highest risk patients are typically in their 50s and 60s, losing weight rapidly, with pre-existing skin laxity and inadequate protein intake. If you are a practitioner and you do not yet have a clinical pathway for GLP-1 patients, the time to build one is right now. If you are a patient wondering what your options are, they are good. They exist on a spectrum from preventive to corrective, and practitioners who specialize in this area can walk you through them intelligently. The injectable industry did not see Ozempic face coming. It sees it now. If this was useful, there's a lot more where this came from. Hit subscribe and you'll get the next one the moment it drops. Drop a comment below if you're dealing with GLP-1 patients in your clinic right now. I want to know what you're seeing.